Good morning, Sir Maarten. What's up? January 23rd, 2023, episode 63, year of birth. How you all doing? Let me hold on and see if we are on live. And if so, then I will proceed into the show. So I'll just hold on a minute or two there and see if we are on. Once I see a recipient clicks in, and we are on for sure. I notice we have a few viewers in already, so we're good to go. All right. So what are we going to talk about today? We got different things. I think, first of all, let me start off with my notices. Let me congratulate Miss Peggy Ann Brandon as the new chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Knowing that person, I'm sure the chamber will be soaring to new heights as her board is filled with many dynamic people. So I'm sure they're going to do what's best for this country. You know, last week I spoke about the whole NEPA issue, and I know there was a press conference called last week during the same time that I did my talk show, so I didn't get a chance to listen to it. But other than hearing of quite a few changes in articles and approval now being sought for it by the shareholder representative, actually, or by the shareholder, which is the Council of Ministers. Because I didn't understand that too good. Is it that they're just notifying the government of the changes they made, or are they seeking approval of the changes they made? I was trying to understand that carefully, because that also naturally gives an impression on what Mr. Kantav was saying and what the board is saying. Again, I didn't hear anything else. I didn't pick up on anything else in particular other than that. I know there was a second article written on the whole board saga at NEPA. But again, I didn't go through that. I didn't take that along today. But again, I sincerely stand on my position. I see no reason why we should take board terms that were 2 times 3 years and make them 3 times 5 years. I think that's craziness. Especially education is a very dynamic something, and you need change of ideas, change of opinions, change of hearts. You know, I would not have wanted to see such a drastic change. But again, that wasn't my call, but I will give my opinion, and I will stand by my opinion. So the teachers union, Y2, has now called for an official meeting last week, Friday. I can't read in the media if this meeting was held, yes or no. But if the meeting was not held, that means there are going to be meetings today during working hours called by the union. But what I found so interesting was that the union now wants that all the backlogged COLA payments, the vacation allowances, are paid up, and the ones from this year are also paid up, guaranteed to be paid in June. That's basically what the union is looking for. I didn't hear the one about the payment of the employees from the regular government employees from the how you call it now, the education department. Oh God, I'm trying to pick up on their name. If they got paid for the summer classes they gave, because that too was a whole to do. But I'm not sure. But let's hope that the minister meets with the union and we prevent all kind of heartaches and unnecessary problems in the education world. God knows we have enough problems in the education world to go saddle up the students and the teachers with more problems because we are not listening to each other. Well, the long-awaited spatial development strategy, because the spatial development plan exists, let's not confuse it. There's a spatial development plan for the country, and that is tied to the spatial development goals 2013. So a strategy that we will use from now till 2013 was put in place by the Ministry of Romy, presented by the minister in Parliament last week, and his advisors. A few things. I'm not going to delve into it too much because then he's going to say I'm picking on him again and I'm beating him up in public all the time, which I'm going to continue doing, but at a higher pace just now, because incompetency needs to be exposed properly. But let's be honest. You bring out a strategy and you just simply ignore the hillside policy. Totally ignore it. The question is, why are you doing this? Then I realize that you're throwing out the development at the harbor as a great thing with spatial development strategy. Why is it? Because you're cluttering the area. More and more strain is placed on the water in the surrounding there. Because if you build up all around there and you have no sewage lines that is taking out that sewage, because there's a line run, but it is not functional. Maybe you didn't know that because you break the contracts with the sewage plant that you were boasting about saving money. You don't even know how to get the sewage out of that area into the plant. That's where your spatial development strategy should have been focusing on. Getting those things out instead of putting down beautiful little pictures. I know it's an election year, but don't highlight things you don't know about because I can pack you up. You can't teach me nothing about it. But I can teach you a whole lot yet. And I will. But what I also found interesting was all these luxury condos that are being built all over the place and will continue to be built. They were not part of the strategy. What are you going to do with it? Because what's most important, and I'm going to address it a little later, for whom are these condos being built? Is this a new development? Is this a new income field? Is this a new group of tourists we're not aware of? Because we have sold timeshare for the past 40 years here. So the question is exactly, these condos that are coming in, they're coming in fast and all across the board there. Especially now in the lowlands and the Simpson Bay, Cold Bay area, you are seeing a lot of condos. We even got some up in Monte Vista going up constantly. The question is, who owns these things? You got to explain that better in your strategy. How do you deal with that? Because, you see, in sustainable goals, if you want them to work, the number one sustainable goal is hunger relief and then poverty. None of the two we are working on as country. The government is not dealing with hunger relief. They are not dealing with poverty. They are not. And I'll tell you why. Because with a minimum wage that is not livable, they will remain in poverty and majority will remain hungry. So your sustainable goals that you set for 2013 in your national development vision ain't going no place. So the strategy you came with, you should have focused that strategy, that spatial strategy, totally different. Maybe, for example, on protecting the lagoon. Because the widening of the lagoon for mega yachts and giga yachts and all those things, it's not going to work, people. There's a reason we didn't do it the last time around. Again, you got to understand what you're talking about before you go out and show pretty pictures. You really have to. You should have talked about land for agriculture. That would have been a great thing. That you take Emilia Wilson, like you said you were going to do, to take back some of the land and make it for agriculture. Had you done that in your plan, I wouldn't be talking about it today. But you didn't. You didn't do that. That's the problem. Talking about comfortable living and living in harmony with the ecology? Are you serious? And then you want to talk about building up a whole big thing there in Great Bay Harbor again? Please. You got to be realistic when you know what you're talking about. But since you didn't know what you were talking about, this is what we get. But again, like I said, it is funny. But maybe, just maybe, Minister, give Alegria their water rights. Let them build a giga marina to deal with the giga yachts that you all want to bring in and the mega yachts that cannot go through the harbor, the Simpson Bay Bridge. Sorry? Let them then build one and they can be out there. Everybody happy? They happy, you all happy. They get their land, you all get your mega yachts and your giga yachts. Everybody happy. Just make sure it's friendly, environmental friendly. If you want to do something, let me give you some ideas what you can do. Because clearly, it's above your level to think on how to do these things. But what I also missed was the preservation in this spatial strategy plan. The preservation of monuments, the preservation of areas. Think on the Belvedere area. Think on the Arch Road area by the Salt Mill. Think about the Amelia Wilson. The preservation there in the spatial development is not there. So again, it is sad when we do these things and we leave out too many things and we make it one. The meeting with the Minister of VSR and Finzo and the hospital clearly shows, now it's clear that there is a very serious problem. There is a very serious problem at the hospital. I don't know enough to give a firm position, but the impression I'm getting when I listen in now, see what happened in Curacao, see what happened in Aruba, is are we getting a smaller hospital for more money, or are we going to get the same hospital that was always planned and somebody going to have to dump in some more money? 7 million was just dumped in already. How much more has to, because they're talking about a redesign and the approval of a redesign to then sign the new contract. That's a scary something, because it means as long as there's no redesign, you're really going to do too much anymore. So I need to understand, because it was the Minister of VSR that says that he wants a better insight now too, because it's contrary to the airport. Locals ain't getting work down there. Locals are not getting work at the hospital. That was not my saying. That was the minister saying. So again, and I think the minister has been honest about the hospital, and I thank him for such, because sometimes you have to just say what it is. And people can get mad with you. That's okay. But at least let the country know what they're up against. Because if you don't do that, then you're taking these people, our people, for a ride they don't deserve right now. Things are hard enough. So please, stripping of cars has become something that is causing an alarm in various neighborhoods, because once those cars have been stripped, they become eyesores, but also havens for rats and other things. So, you know, we got to be careful. Again, the residents have been complaining for a while in St. Peter's. I've seen it on Facebook myself numerous times. But I'm happy that the police went in, and I just read today, I think it's 52 wrecks earmarked in St. Peter's to move. So I hope they move them as fast as they can, bring them to the crush yard and crush these things and done. You know, and again, every time we talk about removing cars, there's a complaint about, oh, we don't have a pound, and oh, we can't do this. Yes, we can do it. Look for a parcel of land and put the cars there. And listen, there's going to be a cost, yes. There is a cost. Cost of security, cost of storage, whatever. But we can't say leave them where they are. And or let the owners pick them up and be held responsible. Who's the owner? We don't know. Half the time, the VIN number might be gone. You don't even know who it's from. So if you know it, gladly, go after the owner. But if you don't know it, clean it up. And keep finding an excuse why we can't do certain things. We need to stop. We got to start manning up, womaning up, and get our own things done, man. We can't keep waiting for other people to do it for us. It's unfortunate, but it's a reality. So again, I hope that we start ridding this country of car wrecks. Again, we have another sad day on our hands, another sad episode in the education department with the seemingly closing of the Ella School. That's the school for kids with special needs. It's some 30 children attending this school, and due to bankruptcy or serious financial issues, the school seems to be closing its doors this month or mid next month, something like that. And that would mean that the kids that are going to school there now, either going to have to find a different school they can attend, or these kids are just going to be left on their own with their parents to figure out how they're going to get an education. But there's a law in this country, compulsory education. So I don't care how you whine and twine this one minister, but you have to get off your chair and you find a solution for these special needs children. That's not a request, that's a demand, because the children have rights. They have rights to education. And this country, many years ago, signed compulsory education into law. So to even read that this is possible in this country is a sad, sad day, once again, for St. Maarten. I will be coming back on this issue. I will be coming back. I'm going to gather more information. And when I come back with loaded guns. Because all those that think they're going to hide and say, yeah, but it wasn't government there. Say, well, no, nonsense. The government is responsible that every child gets proper education. Not that you put a blind child in a school or autistic child or this or that and the child is lost. No, not like that. That's why we're reviewing our whole education system that has failed our children for many years. That's why there's a tender out now to please come and evaluate the FBE. No. This you don't need to evaluate because it's different. So do something. Solve it. Go talk to the people from the school. See what kind of arrangements you all can make. Because these schools were sponsored. Parents were paying and people were giving money. Maybe the education ministry should go in and see if they fit the criteria and subsidize the school. And if there are other schools these children can go to, then make sure that transition is correct. That the children are truly going to another school where they can get help. Other than that, I want to hear nothing. All right? Because we talk too much and we allow the children to fall through the cracks then. I'm not an educator, but my mother was for 47 years. So I picked up a thing or two about dedication to education. I hope you too got it, Minister. Because I know your ministry has it. But they don't seem to be the ones in charge. You are. So please, do something. The Samaritan government, upon the advice of the Nature Foundation, decided to agree to the destruction of some 450 green velvet monkeys. And this seems to have created an uproar. And I truly don't understand why. I don't understand why it's creating an uproar. Everybody complains about the monkeys. Seniors have been crying about how monkeys coming in their yard, eating up all the garden stuff they got. People's fruit trees are being raided by monkeys. Monkeys are multiplying by the hundreds every year. Because we don't have 450 green velvet monkeys here. We got a few thousand. We have a few thousand. Neutering these animals means you have to go and try to catch them, trap them, and all kind of things. It's an invasive species. So like how the tilapia in the ponds was an invasive species. So when the oxygen had run out and thousands died, it wasn't a big thing. We picked them up, we dumped them, and we were gone. Now the monkey, I agree, it's a more developed animal. But if anybody has a solution, please come with it. Don't stand up on the sidelines and scream foul. On this one, I'm going with the government. The government went to the Nature Foundation and asked them what to do. And the Nature Foundation brought this proposal. The Nature Foundation said we're going to get the people from St. Kitts to come over and help us. Because they do shoot the monkeys to ensure they can control the population. We had a big problem in Sabre. You remember with all the erosion with the goats and so, they start shooting the goats. I didn't hear nobody jump up then. Didn't hear nobody get on stupid. So why now? The monkeys are a serious problem. I am an animal lover. But sometimes you got to put down the animal to save the human being. Not the other way around. It's not the other way around. These are not pets. I can understand a pet. But these are free roaming monkeys all over the place. All over the place. Certain places they try to get into houses. Monkeys are aggressive animals because they have to protect themselves. When they feel threatened, they grab children. They go after seniors walking. Listen, there's so many things wrong with it. But at the end of the day, there seems to be one solution given to the problem. And that was destroy the monkeys. Anybody has a better solution, please call the Nature Foundation, tell it to them, see what can be done then. Maybe we can export them. Maybe there's another island that will gladly take 50 monkeys, 100 monkeys, 500 monkeys. Now, then those we will catch them and send them there. They would have been saved. But other than that, they gotta go. Monkeys don't belong here. They don't have a natural enemy that will control their growth. They don't have one in our ecology system. So understand, it is a problem. It is a serious problem. And I believe that what the Nature Foundation brought as solution is at this point in time the best solution for us. Scooters and violence seems to have become a norm. All too often now we read that when there's an accident between a scooter and a car or another vehicle, truck, whatever, if there were more scooters there, they attack the driver of the other vehicle, irregardless that the scooter driver was wrong. Too often scooter drivers are doing wheelies and end up causing accidents or falling, and then for their bad luck, a car's there. But there's also another big problem. A lot of robberies are taking place with scooters. So let me put it out there and give me your thoughts on it. Is it time that we ban scooters on the roads of Dutch St. Maarten? The police just crushed hundreds of scooters, all taken in because of one reason or the other. Faulty, from crimes, stolen, you name it. So maybe, just maybe, the time has really come for us to do this. We got to look at it. My final notice is to the Minister of Tiat. I truly hope that the Minister of Tiat and maybe one or two of his advisors can fly to Curacao and meet with the finance minister there and get all the needed information on the framework and the draft laws to set up the St. Maarten Gaming Authority and the National Ordinance on Games of Chance. In Curacao, they're busy finalizing that now, and they'll bring it into law. That means there will be a gaming authority, there will be taxation on lotteries and all those type of things, online gambling, all via international norms. And best, there'll be a method of dealing with prevention of gambling addiction. You know that's a big problem here in St. Maarten. Gambling addiction is a big problem. It mashes up a lot of families. It has also a lot of families in poverty. So that too is part of it in the Curacao aspect. So maybe, just maybe, we can piggyback on that law. We still have the same laws basically. So we can pick up that law because we have been talking about it here for donkey years. It is part of our country package. It is a requirement there. So why go and pay loads of money to consultants when maybe, just maybe, the law in Curacao can be used here with one or two little tweaks? Let's get things done, man. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, Minister. So I implore on you, pick up the phone, call the Minister in Curacao, the Minister of Finance, see how it's working there, see what you can do in collaboration with him. I mean, remember, the 3 prime ministers made a collaboration on Coho to get rid of it. maybe you can make a collaboration with some things in Curacao to get them here so that at least you got something to show in the short term that you are minister, because it is what, 9 months they say? Election is in November. At least you'll have some good things in your resume. That's a great one, I think. School fights. I spoke about it briefly last week, and I understood there was a meeting with the prosecutor's office, the police, the school boards, I think the education department, all of them was there. But there are a lot of videos going around on Facebook right now, a lot of videos. And I think there were, in the first 12 days of school, there were 11 fights. 3 with weapons, 2 children were stabbed. You know, just to give a little fast insight. Children are under substance, they're high in school or in class. Look, this is not a matter for the police and the prosecutors and the school boards and the teachers alone. This is a matter for parents to deal with also. This is your child we're talking about. We, as a community, have to really look in the mirror and say, how far are we going to allow this to continue? When will we hold those responsible that must be held responsible? Not only the child is responsible, the parent is also responsible. You cannot just say, yeah, but he don't listen to me. Oh yeah, he want to do this. Oh, he want to do that. You got to understand that is still your child. No child is born bad. Children become rude and do wrong things very often because of the social circumstances in their lives. When a child grows up seeing abuse, they will believe that that's the norm of life. When a child grows up and goes to school hungry every day, he will go into survival mode and take food from somebody else that he is stronger of. This is reality, people. We have to deal with this the right way. Now, there are a lot of things that we need to understand in this whole scenario. There are a lot of things. And again, I don't have all the solutions, but I really, really would love to bring out a proposal that I think might be possible. The Minister of Education, I can recall 2 years ago, I think it was, in the budget meeting, spoke about a boot camp. It was something I had spoken about, and I was so happy when he picked it up. And we said, this is not a bad something to work with. Now, a boot camp costs money, yes. It does, yes. And to man it and run it costs more money. But we have organizations that can help. We have the VKS that needs a caserna, that needs a place to call home, that we can also make partially as a boot camp. We have military that come from the Netherlands that we can ask to assist us with maybe 4 or 5 military that can train some of these youngsters life skills. We need to deal with the anger management aspect, because the violence is an expression of anger. And the only way they know how to do this is to pummel each other or stab each other and, God forbid, shoot each other. But this is the reality of St. Maarten, if we like it or not. And please don't take me wrong in this, because I believe in prayer, but prayer alone ain't gonna help on this one. We got to roll up our sleeves and deal with this problem head on. Head on. We cannot allow only schools and only police and only prosecutors to deal with this matter. We have to deal with this matter as parents. We ourselves. The neighborhoods got to come together and see what they can do. And yes, we need to put certain places police officers. But maybe, just maybe, if we get a boot camp and we put youngsters that are having these issues in the boot camp and do online education for them. Because this is something we said we were going to do, toch? Put online education in case we have another COVID. So while the child is there, he can go online because he can see the class. He can see it. We have to start thinking out of the box how to do things. We cannot continue doing it the way we're doing it because it ain't working. And you know what Einstein said? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is ludicrosy. So please, let's find a different approach. I know the police and all of them are working hard, but they can't do it alone. Loitering is something around the schools every day, morning, afternoon. Trying to reach the school, they don't go into school, they're hanging outside the school. Put them in school, tell them get inside. There's no need to be outside. You came to school, you didn't came to hang outside. And if you have patrols up there, as they see the children hanging because they're going to hang lower down from the school, send them to the school. They all got the uniforms, we all know which school they go to. We got to do these type of things. If we do that, hopefully, if we do that, we can start making some progress. But again, understand, this is not only the police's job, the prosecutor's job. This is our job also. Traffic jams. Last week, we had, I think it was 6 ships in. We had about 31,000 people on this island. And traffic was a nightmare. A complete nightmare. You know where? Cold Bay, Simpson Bay. Traffic was just locked up. It wasn't flowing. I don't know why. I haven't heard why. I don't know if maybe we can look at it. But one thing we got to make sure we start to do during the high season is ensure that traffic flows. Now, there were a lot of complaints last week, and a lot of tourists were getting very agitated when they were at the beaches and they had to get back to the ships with taxis because they thought they were going to miss their ship. Those on tours, they'd be a little luckier because the ship will wait for a tour that they sold on board unless the tour gone overboard and didn't come back for hours. The boat might leave, but half an hour they'll wait. But for those that did not go on a tour, but they went to taxis, etc., they might have a problem because the ship don't need to wait on them. So these are things that we got to look at very cautiously, how we're going to deal with this during the season, because this can create a serious impact on us on what's really happening. So again, I know the minister was talking about the trucks and all that, but this is clearly not the trucks. Madam Minister, this is not the trucks. This is just simply too many cars on the road and the flow being jeopardized in different areas for different reasons. So maybe we're going to need what we call traffic pullers, officers of VKS or whomever, control unit, whomever, at certain times of the day, they're going to have to help pull the traffic out of certain areas. You know, on the Simpson Bay route, you have a lot of in and out in parking lots that creates a disaster. But the potholes in the road also create a disaster because everybody's slowing down. Nobody want to mash up the car. And especially the pretty cars with the low profile tires, you know, a pothole this big. He hit in the bottom of your car. So you're going to try to drive around it and curb on the side, creating more traffic issues. So again, there are a lot of things that we have to look at carefully, because when you have big ships in from the the freedom fighters roundabout right up into Point Blanche is mostly gridlocked. And these are things we got to watch out with carefully, because it really can hurt a lot of people. So again, we got to make sure that we get these things going a little better. I know the Taxi Association also had a lot of problems last week with people with bands on and all those things. Again, tourists, at this point in time, unfortunately for us, that's our mainstay. That's what brings the dollars to St. Maarten. We're going to have to figure out how we can maintain it and do better, because we need a lot more things to get this thing really going. So again, let's see what we can do. The airport. Here we go again. I thought, finally the airport was going to be built. You're going to put some tents outside, get people them free Wi-Fi, bottled water. Most probably they'll give them a sandwich just so if it gets too long, then they have to wait 4 hours. They'll give them a food voucher. So God knows. But in the board, there's some shifting going on. And that was remarkable because when they were appointing the board the last time around, they held on to 1 or 2 of the old members. They had sent packing the chairlady. They had sent her packing. They had sent Mr. Towers packing. The other one resigned. The Dutchman stayed. And the lady stayed. The lady became chair because they put a bunch of youngsters on the board. Young professionals were put on the board. And no issue with that. But unfortunately, for the young professionals, the chairlady, who's a very intelligent person, tendered her resignation abruptly. The question is, why? Why did this happen? Is this because the chairlady starting to feel the heat? With this whole project going on, more money involved, a lot of questions being asked, Skip Hall getting desperate. There's something wrong that she resigned. Or is it because they're grooming her to become the next CFO? The next local CFO. You see, she was the CFO at TLM. She is still the consultant at TLM while they have a CFO. So she knows her reign is over there. She can leave. So are they preparing the CFO position at the airport for her? Because the others, they ensured that they shot them down. They shot down the present manager of GB. The CEO of GB was a candidate to be. The present other candidate is still at the airport. But a new Dutchman reached 2 weeks ago. So what's really happening? She leaving the board now to clear the road so nobody could say that she fixed it for herself because she wasn't there? Is that maybe what's hiding behind this resignation? Or is it that things so bad and she don't want to get caught up in no craziness because she knows what the CEO did in TLM? She don't want to get caught with it now, being on the board there and being responsible. You see, there are things here that are not kosher. They are not kosher. But again, the last time around with Mikey Hyman, everybody was ready to fire. Everybody this. You notice you ain't hearing a peep from nobody? When you don't hear a peep from nobody, that's because things seriously wrong. And nobody want to open Pandora's box right now. Because if it open, it can't close. That's what's happening there. Don't let nobody fool all you. They come with all kind of nice things. They're going to keep big thank you parties and all kind of... ain't going there. Airport, that needs to be done. People need to be taken care of. That ain't happening good yet. But it don't stop here. Because it is the same, how you call it? Corporate governance. Remember, it was corporate governance, they said, is what caused to fire the holding board, the holding managing director, and even Mikey Hyman. He didn't get fired for his court case or his alleged wrongdoings. That wasn't part of his dismissal. Part of his dismissal was he gave information, confidential information, to third parties, the Parliament of St. Maarten and the government of St. Maarten. They are considered third parties. And he didn't tell them why he was locked up. He didn't pick up the phone and call him. Those are the reasons that they dismissed the boy. But that same corporate governance doesn't work for the board of directors representing Skip Hall, who on a weekly, sometimes even daily, is having meetings with the managers and the directors of PGIAE. In what capacity is he doing that? In the oversight capacity? What are the rules and regulation exactly for boards? They can move in there and micromanage? You see, this is the problem I have. And when I speak out, people say, oh God, boy, you'll cause trouble for yourself. That's okay. That's okay, big boy. That's okay. But we have to learn to start standing up and call out this craziness that happened in this country. Because we seem to be afraid to do that. And that's very unfortunate. Because if corporate governance doesn't count for everybody, it shouldn't count for nobody. It's either all or none. But we can't be finger picking who's allowed to do what, when, and where. Because that's happening right now at the airport. Now, this country has assets that for one reason or the other, we don't use. The biggest one is our human capacity. We have so many people that have degrees but can't get a job here. And that has to do partially with the type of economy we have. It has to do with that partially. Because if we have different economies that go towards different groups, it will work also that more people can come back home and get a good job. That's one of the things. The other thing that I noticed that we have to watch is because we have the American-Dutch Friendship Treaty, Americans can come to St. Maarten and don't need a work permit. But we can't go to America and work without a permit. So we got to look at that carefully. And nothing against the Americans, because it was a treaty made when St. Maarten needed the investment. So they would come over in the 60s and 70s and start building this country. And we are thankful for that. But times have changed now, and we need our own people to be put to work. So it's time that that treaty is laid to rest. So The Hague, you need to get to work and do this correctly, so that St. Martiners, the youngsters, have a chance. Those that are middle-aged have a chance to get those jobs. Because you work your way up the corporate ladder. But too often at the top, because whom owns it, they keep their own people circulating there because they don't need to really worry too much about a worker's permit. So these are the type of things that we need to look at a little bit. Remember, we had great minds used to be working in the offshore sector, and we destroyed it. So maybe we can bring it back and get some of those people to come back. Again, like I said, we need to adjust our economic pillars, and while tourism is a great economic pillar, it is not a pillar that has many high-paying jobs, unfortunately. So we have to look at something else and how we go about that. Then think about the Sabre Bank. The Sabre Bank, we own 22% of the Sabre Bank. We need to find out. We need to find out what's happening there. Consequently, the government has no clue what's happening there. The government has no clue what's happening on the Sabre Bank. St. Maarten owns 22% of that Sabre Bank. Are there still licenses being given to Venezuela to fish? Because back in the days of Nels and Tillies, Venezuela had 10 licenses. They used to fish. And remember, Venezuela's waters come all the way up in the Caribbean till onto the Sabre Bank. Venezuela waters are bordering the Sabre Bank waters. Now, remember, the one thing I know for sure is that there's gas on the Sabre Bank. I know that for sure. There's gas. Oil is much deeper, but gas is much higher up. That's what the drillings showed 30 years ago. They drilled there, you know. The oil was just too deep. But today, with all these gas problems that we have in the world, and the war in the Ukraine and the Russians and all that, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised that they do drillings on the Sabre Bank for gas. Question is, can St. Maarten do it on their 22%? Or do we wait until somebody else gets a license or does it on behalf of the Netherlands and suck our 22% out of the ground and we get nothing? Just think about it. That's an asset of ours, and we seem not to be doing nothing about it. Why? I don't know. But again, I'm saying it here. I honestly hope we do something. Because it's an asset of ours that we are not using, and we're scrambling for money every day, while there may be money there. But at the same time, it's a fishing area that brings a lot of fish to this island and to Saba. And you don't want to just destroy a fishing area for monies through gas alone. There is a balance, an ecological balance. There is a way that we can do it correctly. Then that's the way we should go with it. So again, I'm just asking the government to maybe look into it and see what we can do. The central bank is another such asset we have that we hardly make use of. Hopefully now we will make use of our position as owner, partial owner of the central bank, to safeguard Mullet Bay. And I've heard a lot of people jumping right, jumping left on what Mullet Bay should be and what it shouldn't be. Look, everybody, when it's convenient to them, will say what's best for the country. I love nature, I love animals, I love people. Without nature, there will be no people. Without people, there will always be nature. That we know, because the world exists much longer than we do as human beings. But there must be what we call a sustainable development. A sustainable development always creates a battle between two things: the environment and the economy. Because the economy sometimes wants too much. So I agree that Mullet Bay should not be overdeveloped, and the Mullet Bay pond should be well protected and should not be part of any sort of development anymore. So how do you go about it? Now, I heard on the floor of Parliament, for example, they said, well, if you pour concrete there, there'll be an uprising. And then in a motion, they said, build a cultural center, center of the arts, something like that, something in that sense. And I'm saying a center of the art cannot maintain, nor cannot pay back a place like this. It just simply can't. It is too expensive to buy and then want to pay it back by just that. But you can put, just like how you see they build building 14, I think there was, if you put a few of those towers there and you put the cultural center there with a parking garage, it will become self-sufficient. And you use the golf course and maximize the golf course to make it one of the best golf courses once again in the Caribbean. Yes, they will go hand in hand with the units there, because please look at how they sold out building 14. Those were not cheap prices. And mind you, basically what happens is a handful of people might live there. The balance that bought it lives abroad, and they spend maybe 2 weeks to a month in that place. And the other 11 months are put in the hotel pool and they will rent it out. Airbnb style or hotel style. Nowadays you talk about condo hotels. This is something we should look at. That is a concept you want to look at for Mullet Bay. Remember, I have stated from day one, we need to protect the beach. So take the road out of the center of Mullet Bay and bring it along the coastline. Put it there so that you can create a few hundred parkings so everybody can go to the beach and feel at home, because they can get to the whole beach now. and run it from when you come in, as you pass Maho's parking lot, you can go right to Point Pirouette. To the left, you should create the new road that goes alongside the coastline. So you're driving alongside the coastline where the old boardwalk used to be. That area down there is where the road should be, curving around the beach and coming out there. For those that lived here many years ago, we are building 90 was, you go back around and you go back into the lowlands or into Kupkoi. If you do that, you then don't disturb Mullet Bay as a piece of property, because you're now using the surrounding, the outside of the property to put the main road. I think, personally, that would do us a lot of good. It will then protect the beach. It will make the beach accessible along the whole side of the beach, and the hotel can work its way back up. And the glory days of Mullet Bay will come back, but in a different era. The era of the 70s and 80s will never come back. That is heritage. That is memories. That was even part of our culture. Because Mullet Bay built a lot of families in St. Maarten. Mullet Bay gave a lot of families wealth, in the sense that a lot of people earned great tips those days in the casinos and in the restaurant business. They built their homes, they built apartments, they did everything. A lot of people I know that came out of the Mullet Bay era did well for themselves and their families. So it isn't that Mullet Bay can't do it, but times have changed. The quality tourists, we need to build back that quality tourist. We have tourists, but the high end that Anguilla and St. Bart's now enjoy, we lost. And we got to work back and getting them back. So again, the central bank can help us with that a little bit. You know, again, remember, I'm a proponent to secede from the central bank. But timing is everything. You don't just secede because it sounds nice. No, you secede because there are reasons why you want to secede. There are benefits for your country if you secede. These are things we have to look at. And because right now Mullet Bay is something that we want to do, and because a motion was passed in Parliament to look at the income from the 1% foreign exchange tax, I believe that the seceding may take a back seat. Not that you don't want to do it, unless you have another solution for how you're going to pay for Mullet Bay. So again, there are things that go hand in hand, and timing is very important. I think we have to look at those type of things. We have to understand what agreements we might be able to make with the Dutch Central Bank to understand in reality what we can do. Because we can do so much. We really can. But we don't always have the will to do it, or sometimes we don't have the know-how, how to finalize the work. And that you will need your seasoned veterans in the field. It is not everything can be done overnight by some of us. But remember, we need to create back industries to build this economy, and maybe the central bank can help us. Think on the offshore industry. Think on the cannabis industry. Think on the regulation of the sex industry. Think on the regulation of the gaming industry. Look, when I say these things, people say, how do you mean regulate the sex industry? It is here for 50 years. Maybe you all don't want to accept it, but it's here. Regulate it. The gaming industry. We have gambling addicts. Just like drug addicts. We have them. But we don't help them because we don't regulate the industry. Regulate it. They can go in the casino 3 times a month or 2 times a month. I don't know. Regulate it. That's what it's about. Law enforcement, the public prosecutor's office, and the courts. Now, when we speak of the judicial chain, we need to understand that there are many elements that play a role in that chain. Too often we leave it to the three main players, as I just mentioned. Law enforcement, so you're thinking of the police, the public prosecutor's office, and the courts. Now, when I look at law enforcement, besides the police and immigration that you normally see out there under sirens, upkeeping the safety and order in the country, we very often forget the other entities that also work in these fields, like the prison, like the child welfare sector, like the domestic violence shelters, like the addiction rehabilitation centers, just to name a few, because all these people, in one way or the other, are doing enforcement for the country and are protecting people from those that those that want to do them harm, or protecting themselves, protecting the people themselves from themselves. So all of these, in my opinion, that's all law enforcement, because they're enforcing existing laws, not laws at random or feelings at random. When we speak of the prosecutor's office, we see them as the entity that holds persons responsible for crimes committed against the country or another human being or an entity. There are more things they do, but that's for a different story. The office also lends itself well to giving advices when needed in the reviewing or the making of the laws. And lastly, we have the judges and the court system, which is known in our country. We know in our organization or in our courts, we know two lines. First line, that's first instance, and you have the appellate court, the appeals court, that's the second line. That's normally, so the first instance is done by the prosecutor's office in St. Maarten, and the second line is done by the Attorney General or the Prosecutor General sitting in Curacao. That's where the office is. Now, there was a time we had the now famously known TBO that had high profile cases. I was one of those victims, where they investigate you. So they come with their own investigators, their own prosecutors, their own judges of instruction, their own judges, their own court recorder. They come with everything themselves. So they're not really a part of our court system. That has now been stopped. They said, we ain't going through this craziness anymore, because it created problems. You don't know who they report to, because these prosecutors, the TBO members, they were all reporting to the Attorney General. But they can't be reporting to the Attorney General and then doing first line, because that's the St. Maarten Public Prosecutor's Office. And this created a serious problem all too often in St. Maarten. I know we have a Solicitor General, but I'm talking about the Attorney General or Prosecutor General. Those sit in Curacao. We have a Solicitor General sitting in St. Maarten. I know that. But again, what I know it's a difficult something I'm trying to explain, but what I'm trying to say is that if we understand the above, so in law enforcement, then we can understand where I'm going to go next. In our country laws, we speak of the strengthening of law. So we want to strengthen the law. Now, if we do that, that means the strengthening of law is not just bringing more prosecutors and bringing more RST to St. Maarten to investigate more people and lock up more people. That's not strengthening law. So-called fighting cross-border crimes, heavy crimes, money laundering, terrorism financing. Again, we speak of it so often that many people believe that there's huge money laundering going on in St. Maarten, huge terrorism financing going on. So money laundering don't really go on here. Sure, there might be a few people that might do something. The bulk of the money laundering goes on in New York, Brussels, Amsterdam, those type of places. in those big banks. That's where they're moving the money. That's where they're shifting money. In the Netherlands, anybody that knows a little bit knows that the Zuidas in Amsterdam is the place to be when you want to see craziness going down with money. Terrorism financing, I don't know if we have ever had a case in Sint Maarten where people were brought up on charges of terrorism financing and convicted. I might be wrong, but I can't recall. I really can't recall. So again, we need to understand that we need to do much more in law when we want to upgrade law than just that piece I explained. It was the president of the Common Courts of Justice of Sint Maarten, of the Cas Islands, the Honorable Mr. Maarten, the court, that told the first chamber 2 weeks ago, the delegation that was in Curaçao, that they're very thankful for the money that was sent to do those things, because that was Knops and Van Dam and all them that wanted to basically so-called clean up the corrupt governments down here. That they went that direction with the 25 million euros for the organizations, that they forgot all the others that I mentioned just now. All the others were forgotten. And they need money for that. And you know what irks me? That you read in the newspaper that the committee, the Rechtshandhaving Commissie, tells the government, so the Minister of Justice in the Netherlands, where they report to, not to do any new projects in justice because the Minister of Justice didn't comply with finalizing the crime fund problems. There were 6 problems. She handled 1 and 5 remain unfinished. And as such, they should block all new projects. But you can't be serious. The crime fund has money in it that is taken from criminals. You're doing as if this is some 50 million, 100 million budget that strange things happening with. I think the Minister of Justice has been very open and transparent if she ever used from the trust fund. I'm sorry, from the crime fund. And to now say that we are going to block all new projects, then I'm saying, but you're not there for us to go forward in justice. You are there to cripple us again. Well, for what? Why? I don't understand it, but again, people have their agendas. I believe the funding of the police force needs to be done much better. This will lead officers to be much more efficient and effective because they're motivated to work and they also have the tools to work. We need to build a police force capacity where officers can have the needed time for their private family lives while the force is still operating effectively. We need to boost the program to have local prosecutors and judges. I can remember some time back when I think it was Mr. Richard Gibson Sr. was the Minister of Finance, that he created a program that was going to work with the University of Curaçao, that we would have courses where sitting lawyers now could educate themselves to become prosecutors and eventually judges. What happens with that program? I'm not hearing much about it anymore, but I seriously believe we are so far behind in having our own judges and our own prosecutors. I know we have 1 or 2 deputy prosecutors that were, I think our governor was a former deputy judge. So we have talent, we have caliber here. I just hope that the program can continue pushing and that we can get, we need much more. We want to talk about our country, we need to have our people manning the justice system that understand what's happening in this country. We really, really need to do that. But again, we need to do much more to be able to stand on our own 2 feet. And no, I'm pointing fingers and blaming here. It is a very difficult something. It is because also of the Dutch law, the Dutch language. It makes it much more difficult when most of this island is taught in English. So again, we need to look at how we're going to deal with this accordingly so that we can move forward with how we do this thing. Now, the Prosecutor General, we need one for St. Maarten. We have a Solicitor General here. And why am I saying this? In our system, right now, we have one Prosecutor General that sits in Curacao. And he's responsible towards 3 ministers. The Minister of Curacao, the Minister of St. Maarten, and the Minister of the Netherlands. Because he also does works for the Best Islands. And I think sometimes priorities that are needed in one country can be missed because of all the different workings that are happening. Aruba has its own Prosecutor General. Why can't we? Is this a matter of cost? Because cost is already created, in my opinion, the fact that sometimes a fair trial depends on where you are. In cases where the punishment or the to be asked punishment based on a crime you committed is more than 1 year, right now in the Netherlands, I'm talking criminal procedures, right now in the Netherlands, you immediately in first instance have 3 judges because the case loads are sometimes heavy and the case can be complicated. Because of money, that's the onlyest reason right now. In St. Maarten, we stay in with 1 judge in first instance. So if we're going to talk about that, then I think we need to look at it also from that direction. That if we are boasting about equality in the kingdom, then why isn't there equality in justice? Because it's not. We got 1 judge, they get 3. Is it that we can't pay for it? Or is it that we don't want to pay for it? Which one is it? Because nobody can explain that one too good to me yet. But again, also our common courts, we get judges out of 1 jurisdiction in the Netherlands. Maybe it's time to change that jurisdiction and find another jurisdiction. I don't know. I am putting out things today because we need to start thinking about these things. We need to talk about these things. We all sit quiet and we are afraid to say things. And I'll talk about the fear of repercussion just now, what I mean with that. So again, think about it. Think about jurisdictions like Amsterdam or Rotterdam or The Hague. Why? Because they have a lot of Antillians living there. So I'm sure the judges are more familiar with the culture and understanding of the human being. A crime is a crime, I agree with you. But we're going to discuss the punishment of a crime just now. Because there's a beautiful case that was published on the 20th of January, 2023, that I want to discuss with all you. But we can also make the VKS organization a structural part of the police, regulated in assistance. Right now, I know they do some work. There's an agreement, but maybe we can go more in depth. There are 100 VKSs walking around. Some don't have jobs. So maybe if they can fit the profile, they can become auxiliary police and train them into police. I don't know. Food for thought, people. Food for thought. I think we can make much better use of the anklet bracelet. These bracelets can make sure that people that committed white-collar crimes and have sat an X amount of time or so, or people that have sat time already and on their last 10-15% of their sentence, if they're not aggressive because they have been rehabilitated in prison, they can get a bracelet, and you can put more people, because every day you have a person locked up, it costs you hundreds of guilders per man. So if you put out 20 people, that means you're saving yourself 5,000 guilders a day, if not more. If not more. You know what that'd be per month? 150,000 guilders. You know what that'd be per year? 1.8 million guilders. You see how fast 20 people cost you 1.8 million guilders? You know what you could do with that 1.8 million guilders? You could do so much in the sports world, because their budget is not even 1.8 million guilders. And we spend that to lock up 20 people. So think about it. Put it in perspective, people. You are going to learn to put things in perspective, to understand what's really happening. I spoke about this boot camp already, so I'm not going to go back into it again. But I want to talk about prison, because with the committee for this Rex Hunt having, saying don't do nothing no more, how will this affect the whole rebuilding of the prison? Because that's a project that ain't gone no place yet. While they sign off that they're going to check this and they're going to check that, we need to start talking about the upgrades and the programs that are needed for the inmates. Right now, I know there was a whole to-do up there with different problems they were having. While we saw pictures of the basketball court, we saw pictures of the gym, and we saw pictures of the music room, what the complaints were about was health. The bad health situation, because they can't get a hold of a doctor sometimes within 24 hours. They have to wait for more than 24 hours. Or the food is not up to par. Now, I visited the prison once, and I went through the kitchen. I cannot say that the food was not up to par. I don't know. I'm not an inmate. Not planning to be one either. So, but they are up there, and they're human beings. And these complaints should be dealt with very, very seriously. There were disturbances up there. Thank God there were no fights. When the police got up there, everybody went to their cells peacefully. Thank God for that. But again, it is only so often it's going to happen before something goes wrong. And this is what we got to prevent. So please, you know, the Law Enforcement Council, I think you all need to start thinking a little different and stop giving negative advices because you feel that something ain't no good. It's the same like the CFT. When they feel something ain't no good, they are giving advice that is going to destroy the country. We got to stop it. We really got to stop it. The fear of repercussion. On Saturday, gone, I intentionally placed an article on Facebook about a corrupt Dutch tax official who was found with 920,000 euros in cash in his house. They said he had it packed up in boxes in the kitchen. And he was charged and convicted for taking or receiving bribes because he was leaking information to criminal organizations. Now, this is an article that can be found on DutchReview.com. So you have the source. You can always verify what I'm going to say next. When you read the story, the charges that came to mind by me directly were taking functions in your bribe as a civil servant, because a tax official is a civil servant, being part of a criminal organization because you were working with criminal organizations, depriving the state of millions of euros because those criminal organizations were not paying their due taxes. You were money laundering because you had 920,000 euros in your house, undeclared, and you committed tax fraud because you never declared that money. I just gave you 5 charges that would, here in St. Maarten, cost you at least 5 to 10 years in jail. At least. Why do I say that? Because in St. Maarten, we just had a case where a gentleman was sentenced to 2.5 years for money laundering. In one of the cases with computers with the government of St. Maarten. We had another case where a politician was sentenced for 3 years for allegedly taking a bribe while others got acquitted in the same case. We had various contractors a few years back was sentenced for tax fraud with jail time. I was sentenced to 32 months for taking a bribe in function, allegedly. The Dutch man was sentenced to 180 hours community service. No jail time whatsoever. Now don't get me wrong. If you commit the crime, you must do the time. I stand by that. But in one kingdom, with the constant demand that we have concordance laws, think of the Crown Witness, how they cried during the Larimar case in Bel-Air. The prosecutor that time, I think Mr. Baying was his name, demanded that the Parliament of St. Maarten pass the laws because he needed the Crown Witness now in this case. Mind you, our laws are quite similar with those in Holland. The question is this: how, in God's name, do we get these type of punishments down here and up there? They get 180 hours community service. But down here, they don't just throw the book at you. They try to destroy you outright. With these type of sentences versus the 180 hours community service. That's what it was. Now, I feel, and again, this is my personal feeling, when we're speaking about equality, we must try to understand through whose lenses we are looking. Because it is impossible that we are looking through the lenses of Lady Justice. It's impossible. Because the crimes are the same. Yet the punishments are night and day. They are night and day. Very often here they talk about exemplary functions. I had an exemplary function, so I must be punished. But the tax office man didn't have an exemplary function. We just had a whole scandal in Holland about discrimination and selection of people that we're going to destroy because of taxes. The tax scandal, you remember that? We just had it. The government fell. Rutte 3 cabinet fell because of that. It is verdicts like this that clearly show how unfairly, in my opinion, we are judged by judges. I am not going to say they were sent here to do this, but God, my gut feeling tells me that the TBO group that was here was on instructions, because it is impossible. It's outright impossible that the judges that came here to sentence us don't know how the sentencing takes place in the Netherlands. I just don't understand it. But I speak from my heart. And some might tell me, you're crazy to even say this publicly, but this is who I am. If I do the crime, I'll do the time. But I didn't do this crime. So I'm planning to do the time neither. But again, I put this article on Facebook, and very, very few people, very few people reacted to the article. You know why? Because of fear of persecution. They were fearing persecution. They don't want to be on the radar of these people. They don't want to be on the radar of the people. She's not here. So that's the problem we are having. Nobody wants to speak out, because if they speak out, they become a target. I don't want to believe that we are still living in this state. Not in the world of today. Is this the way they are planning to keep us enslaved? By locking us up through legal roads? For God's sakes. I hope my thoughts are wrong. Prove me wrong, people. Let them prove us wrong. Mullet Bay. Last Friday, we had a whole meeting about Mullet Bay. A whole long meeting. And I'm going to stay short on this one, because there were two motions. One motion brought by MP Manuel, and one motion brought by MP Rayon Peterson. And I think both motions had merit. Both had merit. I think the motion of MP Peterson should have been merged with the motion of MP Manuel, and I think we would have a super motion. Nevertheless, the one from MP Emmanuel was adopted, and by the one from MP Peterson, unfortunately, was not adopted. And the motion, I think it's going to be in the papers of today, what all it does. But again, here the central bank, for example, St. Maarten should try to use the central bank to ensure that they get up in this. What I found unfortunate, though, in that whole motion thing, is that some members of parliament didn't vote. And while there was some bickering, and I must agree with MP Bryson, if we want to point fingers at anybody that did St. Maarten wrong in the Mullet Bay affair, then we should point the finger at Husang Ansari. That's the onlyest finger you can point. He owned it, and he did what he wanted. He fought the farmer owners for 10 years in the courts of New York with insurance monies, because he wanted to build back some towers and not the old school Mullet Bay we had, you know, with all the apartments all over the place. And that the reason was maintenance costs, etc., etc. And the farmer owners didn't want that, because they had owned a two-story, and they didn't want to be in a 10 or 15 or 20-story building. And that was the start of the drama of Mullet Bay. So, unfortunately though, when everything is said and done at the end of the day, you remember Ansari, because that's the man that was there. Now, I heard people stating that corporate structures will not allow the central bank to do this. If that is the case, then why did Nina Ansari in the courts of Washington, so Washington DC in that area there, why did she file a case against the central bank for stealing her land, the Mullet Bay property? Why? Because corporate structures go as far as the courts. And when the courts step in, structures are put aside. And ownership is put aside. Because the 1 billion they took out of Enya, out of the pension funds, from 40,000 plus Kyosolinians, and God knows how much in St. Maarten, that was so-called back by the Mullet Bay property that was labeled, I think, what was 600-700 million? Please. That's fraud. So there's no corporate structure. There's no cadastre and all that anymore. That's through the window. Now the court stepped in and said, this gonna happen. Please go and do this. And they told Ansari the next time he tried to pretend, he and I think Clarence Darby too, tried to pretend to be directors, it gonna cost them 10 million for each infraction. That's corporate for you. We call it judicial. So please, St. Maarten has to remember this. Mullet Bay will be sold most probably. Hopefully, the government of St. Maarten, through the Minister of Finance, can come to an agreement to purchase it and pay it back using the foreign exchange levies that we collect every year. That way, we can then start to develop Mullet Bay, make sure we protect the beaches for the people, and we can build different things there, protect the pond. But there's something missing in this whole story. And you know what that'd be? The people. Because the question is this: the towers of Mullet Bay, who does that belong to? We keep speaking of Mullet Bay, but we are talking about the property, the Mullet Bay property, not the beach, not the lagoon. We're talking about the Mullet Bay property. We're talking about that hard dot. The towers of Mullet Bay is also a piece of property. Who does that belong to? Is that part and parcel of this deal? Because if it is, then I think it is imperative that the Minister of Finance gets in contact with the central bank, so that all the people that used to work at the towers and haven't gotten their money yet can get their money now, before we sell off anything and the people don't get their money. Because they're doing that to protect the in-year fund. But since you hold the asset, that means the people ain't gonna get nothing. And we cannot allow that as country St. Maarten. The people that worked in the towers of Mullet Bay for 30 plus years, 40 years, cannot just be dismissed and not paid what is owed to them. Most of these people are older than me, and they're making 60. Some of these people are 10, 15 years older than me. You cannot just push them aside. People have to be taken care of the right way. So, Minister, maybe you can check who owns the lands and the towers. And if it is part of the Mullet Bay property, then it's time that we do what needs to be done to ensure that all the workers of the towers are helped getting what they need to get. But again, strongly believe that places like Building 14 and the Cliff, those type of things have set the skyline for that area. So if we can put a few of those towers there too, we have enough developers in St. Maarten because they have been building these things. We can talk to them and see how we can get it done. Think about it. Food for thought. Because please, that development is what going to put money in the kitty cat of St. Maarten eventually. We're not building those towers to house our own people. Let us not fool ourselves with that though. That's an economical development there based on market that can afford it. Social housing, we're going to come to that just now. I found it a pity though that certain MPs did not vote for all the motions. One voted, I think one MP, I think MP Westcott voted for the motion from Rayon, but wasn't there for the motion from Emmanuel, which was right after. MP De Weaver and MP Heiliger and MP Brownbill were not there for none of the two motions. That's unfortunate, very unfortunate. And I'm sure everybody has a reason, but it's unfortunate. In closing, we're fighting to keep our heads afloat on St. Maarten with the inflation and the serious rise in cost of gasoline, fuel clause and GB, food, etc. But we're also seeing closures of a school for special needs pupils, which only making things worse for some kids and their families. Remember, compulsory education is a law in St. Maarten. These children have a right to proper education, not just any education, proper education that will help them develop and move forward in the world. During the whole Mullet Bay inquiry, I heard a lot of things, but what I didn't hear what was going to happen really with the people at the towers. I had so hoped that somebody would have spoken about those people because they are still after winning court verdicts, they are still waiting to be paid. While Nina Ansari is now in Washington claiming that the central bank stole her land in St. Maarten. She forgot to tell him that she stole, together with her daddy, all the money out of the pension fund. 1 billion guilders to be specific. You see? And then, when there's a motion, certain people can't vote because of whom is involved. You know, there are condos building and selling at prices locals cannot afford. And they're building them on government-owned lands. On government-owned lands. Now, while they're still waiting to see where these 1,000 affordable homes are going to be, that we had so many publicity stunts about during the last election campaign, I think it's important what I'm going to say next. This country has a lot of Airbnb going on, yet we have no clue who owns the places. We have no clue. I have seen towers being built now and are being sold. Some of them are even sold out already. Do we know who owns these buildings? Do we know who owns them? Because when they rent them Airbnb style, how does the government get their fair share of that money? Because that money is being derived in Sint Maarten. So you're going to pay money in Sint Maarten. You can live in Timbuktu for my part. That money was derived, it was made in St. Maarten, so you're going to pay your share. So the Minister of Finance, through the tax department, should visit all those locations and demand, not request, demand to know who the owners are. And if they come with companies, you want to see the UBOs, the ultimate beneficial owners. That way, every year, if they don't file taxes on the monies they made here, you go and do a little check at the place itself to find out how often it was rented. Because the abuse needs to stop. I don't mind you buy a piece of paradise. But when I own timeshare in America, I pay tax every year. Every year. So why you don't pay here? What makes it different here? We are not living anymore in the tax holiday era. We are living in the era you earn, you pay. And that goes for everyone. Not only for we locals. Also for those millionaires that come here and put their money in here. While I'm happy for them, that they can buy a piece of paradise, it doesn't mean to say that they don't pay for a piece of paradise. Not only to the developer, but to the owners of the country. That's the people. I saw that after 3 years being the Minister of Romy, that when the Minister of Tiat decided he go in Front Street and boardwalk to fix what needs fixing, that there was a whole entourage. Thank God that the Minister of Tiat decided he go in Front Street, because for 3 years the minister didn't worry about it. And now they're talking about moving damaged street lights. But that's part of the contracts between Vromi and GB. Come on. Could have been done 2 years ago. But it wasn't. It's called incompetency. Thank God, Minister of Tiat, that you took him by the hand and you walked him around and showed him what needs to be done to upgrade the tourism product. Thank God the king come in. Because this country is so filthy and so unkept right now, because there are no contracts to do district cleaning. Drive the roads in the districts and you'll see how overgrown the grass is and how the trees are not pruned. And I'm sure because in the grass nobody ain't looking, it's full of debris. Because when you throw the bottle down, nobody can see it until you cut the grass. And this used to be done by the boys from the neighborhood. But the minister found it fitting on the 31st of October last year when the contracts were terminated because they came to an end, not to extend them like the contracts gave the possibility. No, he was going to hold a tender. And up until today, he can't give it off. Don't ask me the reason. I believe he's seeing ghosts. Because all the tenders he did for district cleaning, equipment on the landfill, district trench cleaning, public toilets, none of them are out. None. So don't blame nobody. Look in the mirror. And if you think this is blows, wait, they coming. The government listed a page of accomplishments, I think it was. But what exactly has this government accomplished that wasn't done through the trust fund with the monies from the Dutch? Wasn't it the same government? Just a change of players that was told in 2017, I don't trust you all. So I ain't giving all you no money. That created a fall in the government, new elections, and the Romeo Malin government? Isn't it the same government sitting now? They beat it up on this government, tell them they ain't know what they're doing, and they sell out the country for sale. And today, they're boasting about what all they accomplished with the money of the Dutch. Have a great Monday. Have a wonderful week. God bless all of you out. Bunks is out.